It's okay to not like Beyonce, but it is not okay, however, to act as if there is this objective standard by which she is undeserving of the accolades, titles, and awards she has received over the duration of her career. At this point, if you find yourself consistently questioning her achievements and accolades, it's time for you to recognize you carry a great amount of implicit bias you haven't even begun to confront yet. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel if you are new here, or welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we are trying something a little different here. We're trying a new style of video, so drop down in the comments and let me know if you would like to see shorter faceless videos, or you like my old format of longer videos, about 30 minutes long, where I am on camera. So let me know which format you like. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about Beyonce. Not just Beyonce, but more specifically, Beyonce winning the Grammy for Album of the Year, only to be on the receiving end of backlash saying that she won because Jay-Z went and bullied the Recording Academy, that it was a shut up award, but mostly what I've been seeing, that it wasn't deserved. Over the past, I want to say 8 to 10 years, there has been a marked shift in how a lot of people talk about Beyonce and how she is regarded in the mainstream media as an artist, not just the mainstream media, but especially online and on social media. And I think that there are several reasons for this shift. For one, she's getting older. There is a lot of ageism within every single industry, and the music industry is no different. There is this idea that women, when they reach a certain age, they are to sit down, shut up, or go be moms. And Beyonce, as a mother of 3, as a wife at 43-year-old, she has been performing since she was 9 years old with no signs of slowing down. I mean, she just released the dates for her Renaissance Act 2 Cowboy Carter tour. Beyonce has no plans of sitting down, shutting up, being a mom, and being a wife. If anything, she is going harder. I love this for her, and I especially love this for the Beyonce fans. But yeah, ageism definitely plays a role in how people regard and talk about her, and also misogynoir. Doing this video, I would absolutely be remiss if I did not bring up the fact that her being a Black woman, a proud Black woman, absolutely informs and impacts the way people talk about her, regard her, and treat her. Misogynoir is very real, and I notice it especially and particularly with her constantly being compared to a very specific artist who, while I don't and won't spend too much time or energy discussing her in this video, I would be remiss in not bringing her up. Taylor Swift. Racism makes it so that Black people are constantly in every single space and arena where we demonstrate any level of talent or skill. We are always being questioned for these talents and skills. And simultaneously, while we are being questioned and dismissed for these talents and skills, the same talents and skills, we are also being diminished, or people are coming up with some justification to explain why we have these talents, why we have these skills, why we have these opportunities, and why we are in these positions in the first place. Even though, as so many Black people will tell you, you have to work twice as hard to be regarded or even seen as half as good. Racism makes it so that Black people will never be regarded as equal or even worthy in some people's eyes. You will be disliked and hated for merely the color of your skin. And because of sexism, misogynoir makes it so that you will be hated doubly, even more, because you are Black and a woman. I brought up Taylor Swift earlier, and like I said, I will not be spending any real or great amount of time in this video talking about her. However, the only reason why I brought her up is because whenever it comes to Beyonce, whenever we're talking about Beyonce's successes, accolades, achievements, etc., Taylor Swift is always brought up in comparison. It's a constant thing that happens. It's an unfortunate thing that happens. And in my opinion, it is very weird to consistently compare the two of them because you cannot compete where you do not compare. So the comparisons between the two is genuinely confusing to me. People need to stop bringing up Taylor Swift every single time that they talk about Beyonce. Any and every single time Beyonce wins something or achieves something, people bring up Taylor Swift, and it is beyond me for several reasons. But the biggest reason being that they are very different artists with different skill sets. Beyonce is a singer, artist, dancer, writer, a well-rounded performer through and through. There is quite literally no other artist out there doing what Beyonce does. There is Beyonce and there is everyone else. And I'm not saying this as a stan. I'm simply saying this as when you evaluate and regard Beyonce as an artist, there is no other artist, recording artist, performing artist who is in the same league as Beyonce currently. However, there is this constant comparison between the two of them that absolutely informs the conversation around Beyonce. It's very unfortunate because this is what we do to women. We are consistently comparing women to one another in a way that we really do not do men, male artists, male performers, male athletes, etc. There is always this constant competition when it comes to women, and it's not even necessarily the women themselves who are engaging in this competition. Oftentimes it's the fans, and I'll talk about the fans a little bit later in the video. But like I said, you can't compete where you don't compare. It's not just something that we're seeing with Beyonce and Taylor Swift. Back in the day, we saw it with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. People constantly, the mainstream media, the fandoms, constantly compare women to one another and create this fictional rivalry in their heads between any two women who are at the top of their game in any field. And a lot of it is done by the fandoms. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a part of any fandom. However, social media has created very toxic, super weird standoms that pit people, pit artists, pit performers, pit these two women against one another, even when the artists themselves are friendly with one another, support one another, and there are no signs of them beefing or having resentment or negative feeling towards one another. How many times have we seen Beyonce support Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift support Beyonce? There is no beef between these two women. So it is very annoying to me that people will constantly try to compare the two of them when they are not on the same level. They are not the same artists. They are not making the same music. They are not making the same type of music. There is no real reason to ever compare them. But I noticed this comparison a lot with specifically the Swifties. And I honestly want to say the Swifties are the most toxic, the worst fandom in music these days. I know a lot of people want to give that award to the Barbs, but yes, the Barbs can be aggressive at times. However, there is this level of racism when it comes to the Swifties. And like I said, I do not really want to spend a lot of time or energy talking about it. However, when it comes to this conversation about Beyonce being undeserving, when it comes to the accolades, when it comes to her achievements, when it comes to her success, there are people who will come out of the woodworks to dismiss and diminish her accolades, her achievements, and her success, and constantly bring up Taylor Swift to put down Beyonce. So that is the only reason why I am talking about Taylor Swift or even brought her up, because we see this consistent comparison between the two of them. But as I stated before, you cannot compete where you do not compare, and the comparisons between them are not grounded in any real reality, and they need to stop. Now, I brought up misogynoir, and I want to tie in misogynoir to the third reason why I think that over the past 8 to 10 years, the conversation has shifted around Beyonce. Prior to 2016, Beyonce was a very race-neutral artist. And when you think about Black American or African American performers, athletes, actors, actresses, celebrities, people who are really regarded at a high level and put on a pedestal by mainstream society, mainstream media, who basically ascend a level of success and fame, part of what keeps them at that level of fame and staying within the good graces of mainstream America white America is being race neutral and not talking about race at all. Beyonce dropped Formation in 2016, and it was a deviation from any type of music that she had made prior to that had gone mainstream. Formation was huge. Like, I remember when that song dropped, and honestly, before that, I really did not listen to Beyonce's music. I listened to it, everybody heard her music. She made bops. You had to be living under a rock to not hear Beyonce's music. However, to sit down and listen to it prior to Formation, I really did not listen to Beyonce's music, but Formation dropped and I was like, oh my God, what was this? Formation, it was a trap bounce song that celebrated her culture, her identity, and success as a Black woman from the Southern United States, from Texas, in a very proud way. In that video, she called out racism, police brutality, and then she showed up at the Super Bowl in Black Panther regalia, very proudly Black. And that's when the public tone and conversation around Beyonce noticeably shifted. As this shift is occurring, as she is becoming now a Black artist who is no longer race neutral, that in tandem is occurring as Taylor Swift is rising within her fame and her career. A lot of people, specifically a lot of white people, are very comfortable and enjoy Black artists, Black celebrities, Black athletes, Black people who are very successful who do not talk about race. So as soon as a lot of Black artists and Black celebrities, if and when they stop becoming race neutral, you will notice that the conversation around them shifts, and you will notice how they are regarded and talked about in white mainstream media also shifts. Since Formation, Beyonce has continued to make very Black music, and not just make Black music, but within that Black music, she makes music about pride within her heritage, her race, her ethnicity, and culture. These are frequent themes, not just in her music, but in her artistry. Like, if you watched Black is King, I know there are a lot of people who have criticisms about it across the diaspora, specifically Nigerians, who feel that she took Nigerian mythology and kind of flattened it as it goes mainstream. And that's genuinely something that honestly happens when you are not part of that specific ethnicity or culture group. However, as a Nigerian American, I thought it was pretty cool to see a lot of the Yoruba mythology and elements within Black is King. I thought Beyonce did a really great job of displaying Yoruba mythology. And when she does this, she also gives opportunities to people who are then able to get recognition and are able to work on other projects. So something I genuinely enjoy about Beyonce as an artist is she seems very tapped into different types of subcultures and is constantly elevating as an artist because she's not afraid to genre bend. She's not afraid to try something different. She's just a very creative artist. And again, there are very few artists out there who are even thinking on that level. I want to say Doja Cat is super creative. Doechii, super creative. I know Doja Cat can at times be a little problematic. However, I really like her creativity. I love Doechii's creativity. And I really don't see artists like that who are pushing the needle, pushing the envelope the way Beyonce and these two are. But anyways, yeah, Beyonce, you will see a lot of Black themes and elements in her music, in her artistry. She is no longer a race neutral artist. She hasn't been for about 10 years. And that really informs how people talk about her and treat her, even though you will have many people say, I know that there's somebody who is watching this video right now, possibly a white Swiftie, be like, no, it's not about her race. Everything is about race. When you are raised and socialized within a country that was built off of the backbone of white supremacy and anti-Blackness, racism is baked into every single institution and industry in this country. So it will always be about race. And if you cannot acknowledge that, I would say you really need to sit down and confront your own implicit bias, because a lot of people's implicit bias is what makes it so they cannot understand the reason why they are responding to Beyonce in the fashion and in the manner that they do is because of racism. So let's talk about the Grammys. Beyonce has been snubbed for Album of the Year since like 2013. And in that time, she has produced countless albums, released countless albums that objectively would be in the running for Album of the Year. And while in that time, yes, she has won other Grammys for her projects, Album of the Year has just been out of her grasp. And the reason why I say objectively is because when you look at the criteria for Album of the Year, even though music is very subjective, very personal, there is specific criteria to win Album of the Year, or at the very least be eligible. So in order to be eligible for Album of the Year, the album must meet the following criteria. Album has to have new recordings. At least 75% of the album must be new recordings, which are recordings made within 5 years of the album's release date. Also, part of the criteria is that these recordings must be previously unreleased. And just as a caveat, all of the contributors to the album are eligible for a trophy. Once you meet this basic eligibility, this basic criteria, you are put in the running to win Album of the Year. There is a voting process by which 13,000 people of the Recording Academy vote. So because there are people who are voting based on their own personal tastes and based on their own personal beliefs, yes, the voting process does become subjective. And I've touched on subjective versus objective several times in this video. So this is where we're now going to flip to the subjective, because music is very personal. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Music is very personal. So when musical taste is very personal, and when you have people voting for who gets to win an award and there's no objective criteria other than the 3 things that I listed earlier, how you decide who wins, who gets your vote, absolutely becomes subjective. There are people who are trying to diminish and dismiss and say Beyonce was not deserving of winning Album of the Year. And the reasons, the excuses I have seen have run the gamut from hilarious to just sad. I've seen people say she only won because Jay-Z bullied the Recording Academy. And listen, I was like, I'm sorry. I honestly find this hilarious because the lengths people will go to downplay Beyonce is just hilarious to me. Like, think about this for a second. A grown man wielding his power to bully all 13,000 full-grown adults voting in the Recording Academy for Album of the Year for all of the other awards. It's just preposterous. You know, it's ridiculous. And yes, I'm sure that there are a lot of things happening in the back end that we are not privy to. So maybe the threats of bullying could be true. Sure, if you want to dismiss Beyonce winning Album of the Year because her husband allegedly bullied 13,000 people, if that's what you want to go with, cool. Fine. However, are you then willing to acknowledge that there are other artists with powerful machines behind them? And if you can acknowledge that Beyonce has a machine behind her, that machine being her husband who bullied 13,000 other adults to give her this award, this here damn award, some people are calling it, then how do we not know? How can you conclusively, can you then extend that to other artists also lobbying and bullying behind the scenes? Is it just a viable possibility when it comes to Beyonce and nobody else? Okay, cool. So that was just the one reason that I saw that honestly made me laugh, because I was like, are you serious right now? You know, people have been like, it's a here damn award. You know, people got tired of Jay-Z complaining. And listen, like I said, Beyonce has been snubbed since 2013. She seemed genuinely shocked that she won. I think she fully expected to go there and have these people play in her face again. You know, her winning Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter specifically seems to incense a lot of people for multiple reasons. You know, I've seen people say the album was not that good. I enjoyed it. But again, music is subjective. So I can understand two people can listen to the same thing and come away with two completely different opinions opinions and feelings. I have to give room for that. I have to respect that. If there are people who think the album was not good, subjectively, that's fine. But to objectively say the album was not good, there is no respect for that. I cannot agree to that, and I will not agree to that opinion. People seemed very upset that she won Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter because it was labeled a country album. However, many people have refused to recognize Cowboy Carter as such. The Country Music Awards, for example. And well, as we heard on Cowboy Carter, in the words of Miss Linda Martell, genres are a funny little thing, aren't they? Funny little thing. Just like Beyonce said, they are used to put people in boxes. However, country music, it originated from Black American people. Country music is Black music. So how are you going to have people telling Black artists that they are not welcome in a genre that they created? I can understand, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I can understand that music taste is very personal and that there is a subjectiveness that comes to music. However, objectively speaking, Cowboy Carter was eligible for Album of the Year. Cowboy Carter won Album of the Year, and it was beyond deserved. Any and every single time Beyonce is awarded for anything, given an honor, given a title, there will always be a subset of people ready to scream it down, saying it wasn't deserved and question why she was even given this honor, recognition, or award in the first place. Many people cannot recognize that their implicit bias, their racism, is the reason behind their very strong feelings, or the fact that they are members of a toxic fandom also contributes to their desire to diminish and dismiss anything and everything Beyonce is awarded for, especially if somehow Taylor Swift is a factor in the equation. These toxic fandoms, and I'm not even talking about the Swifties in general, there are fandoms and there are standoms. So let me be very specific. These standoms, not just Swifties, but standoms in general, these people make any conversation about music or any musical artist immediately unenjoyable and very annoying because they have elevated their favorite artist to the point of being above any critique. And a lot of the time when people don't even like an artist, it may not necessarily be that it is the artist they dislike, but it is instead their toxic and annoying fans. You know what I'm talking about, those standoms. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to get into it in case like this, I find myself on the wrong side of the internet. I'll just leave it alone. But yes, so many standoms make enjoying certain artists so difficult to listen to and just like. I don't want to touch too much on Taylor Swift, so I won't, at least from a music standpoint, because I don't listen to her music. I couldn't really tell you a lot about her music. Therefore, I'm not able to critique it. However, when it comes to critiquing her music, when it comes to talking about her music and her artistry, her as an artist, there has been a certain narrative I have seen to explain why, at least when Swifties talk about it or constantly compare Beyonce to Taylor Swift, one reason that they use to hold onto their claim that Taylor Swift is a, quote, better artist, unquote, is the fact that she has the highest selling concert ticket numbers, revenue anyways. And that is not a criteria for artistry, but it is an indicator that there are a lot of people who now approach music from the perspective of being consumed rather than being enjoyed. And this is possibly a generational thing, because I come from a generation of music as an older millennial where streaming wasn't a thing. That's not how we listened to music. So in order to really take in music, to appreciate music, especially your favorite artist, you had to go out and buy their album and listen to every single song on the album. they were cohesive projects. There wasn't just streaming where you could listen to one song over and over and over again. You know, these albums were cohesive projects that went together. And when I listen to Beyonce's music, one of the things that I love about her music, one of the things I really enjoy about her artistry is that her albums are entire projects, you know, and it gives you that nostalgic feeling that people are really putting time and energy into their craft, into their artistry, into their music in a way we do not see nowadays. You know, I touched on Doechii a little bit earlier, what I loved about her album, and it was really nice to see her win a Grammy. I loved seeing that, you know, and listening to Doechii's album, I loved that it was a project from start to finish. You really, I loved it. I loved it. I replayed her album the first time I listened to it. I replayed it like 3 times. It was so good. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, anyways, if you are using who has the highest amount of streams or who has the highest revenue generating concert, if you're using these measures as a barometer for who is a better artist or not, then it is about the numbers and not necessarily about the music or the artistry. And when it comes to the artistry, another thing that I have read and seen people say when the Tortured Poets Department, the Tortured Poets Department, when that album came out, I was seeing people sitting on TikTok saying that in order to bolster her streaming numbers, these Swifties literally sat there and just hit play on her music and let it stream, play in the background, even though they weren't listening to it, well, actively listening to it anyway. And again, this could possibly be a generational thing because I am of the mindset, I'm of the perspective, I'm from a generation where music is to be listened to for enjoyment, not consumption. But again, that is my personal opinion and it is completely subjective. Streaming numbers do matter to some people. And if you are one of those people that believes that streaming numbers are highest generating revenue from a concert, if those numbers are more important when it comes to the artist, you're absolutely going to feel Taylor Swift is a better artist, quote unquote, than Beyonce, and you are absolutely entitled to believe that. Going back to the music and the artistry, another way that I've seen people put down Beyonce in favor of Taylor Swift is people saying that Taylor plays her own instruments and doesn't collaborate with other artists. You know, she writes everything on her own, and if she plays her own instruments, that's actually pretty dope. Like, we are getting rid of so many band programs in schools. You don't really see a lot of people learning how to play instruments, you know, as we continue to dismantle these music and arts programs in schools. And it's really sad. So anyone who is able to play instruments and bring that element into their own music, that is honestly pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. However, the lack of collaboration and rampant individual is something I'm going to touch on from a cultural perspective. Beyonce is a Black woman. I am a Black woman. African cultures and cultures of the diaspora, Black American and African American culture included, are very collaborative cultures. Individualism is a very Western mindset, and while I'm sure the Swiftie fan base is very diverse, it would not be surprising to me if and that most Swifties, most Taylor Swift fans are white and from Western countries, therefore raised within cultures of individualism. Therefore, they believe and think that in order to be the best, in order specifically anyways, to be the most successful and have that title as the most successful or someone who produces the best music, you have to be able to say you did it all by yourself. This rampant individualism in all things we do, in all aspects of life, is not within the cultures of Black people across the diaspora. And if there's another thing that I really appreciate about Beyonce and her music, it is the fact that even though she is such an individually talented person within herself, she recognizes the talent in others and has such a willingness, has such a desire to collaborate with others, and not just collaborate with others, but put them in positions to where they can succeed independent of her. And her collaboration with others, her willingness to do so, her willingness to tap into other genres, her willingness to work with people from different backgrounds than herself is what makes it so her music is able to span across not just generations and time, but people of different cultural and ethnic backgrounds. It is the reason why, even though Cowboy Carter is a country album, she was able to blend it with other genres of music and thus win Album of the Year. And when it comes to her putting on other people, and if we go back to that objective eligibility when it comes to Album of the Year, all contributors to the album are eligible for a trophy because Beyonce collaborated with so many artists on Cowboy Carter. There are so many artists who now have their first Grammy. There are so many artists who are Grammy winners. Shabuzi, Willie Jones, and Linda Martell, for example. Something that I learned early on in my career is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Beyonce is 43 years old and has been performing and making music since she was 9. Over the past 30 years, she has strengthened and honed her talents and has been able to do so by individually, yes, working on her own craft and being just such a creative person, but recognizing the value in other people's contributions and collaborating and being able to work with others is a strength. It is a strength and a show of her own leadership, of any leader, to be able to collaborate with others and understand that you do not know all there is to know, that you could possibly use help from others. It is a strength and a show of a leader who is not only grounded and rooted within their own selves, but also in their own skill and their own worth. Beyonce is a talented artist who is showing no signs of slowing down, and she is not going anywhere. She has come and has so much further to go. And she has come this far, recognizing her own skills, her own strength, her own talent, her own worth, while also recognizing the skill and the talent in others that has made it so she is always so willing to collaborate with others, and not just collaborate with them behind the scenes, but publicly acknowledge them, give them their flowers, and give them opportunities. So to wrap this up, everyone is ultimately entitled to feel however they want about music or any artist, because music is subjective, it is personal. But to say that Beyonce is undeserving of her win when it came to Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter, if you honestly can say that with your entire chest and believe it, it is probably time for you to sit down and have a conversation with yourself, an honest conversation about confronting your own implicit bias and probable racism. Drop down into the comments. Let me know what you thought about this video. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if you want more faceless videos. And until next time, peace out.